Hey guys, back again with another edition of the Downburst. It's me, Christopher, here. As you can tell, I'm kind of orange. There's a reason why, because on the other screen it's pretty hot, and I'll show you a little bit about that as well. But we are under a severe weather risk for tomorrow, albeit it's a low risk nonetheless. But we do have portions of Grundy County and extreme eastern Franklin County that are under a level 2. And I have been able to look at the latest from the HRRR, and so I'll break all that down for you, let you know the risk, let you know the timing, what you guys can expect as you plan for your Monday. So if anybody here is in wants to put a question out in the chat, let me know. I've got it over here on the screen. So I can read those off as I go through the setup. So I think this will be kind of a quicker one, a little bit less in depth because, like I said, not much terribly to talk about, but I did see some activity increase on the zero HRRR, which was not necessarily concerning, but we'll dive into it. So let's go straight to Weatherfront. So all the graphics that I'm using here are Weatherfront, and you can have all of this too. It doesn't cost you all that much. I think it's one of the best tools. I don't get paid by them, but honestly, if I did, that'd be nice. So anyways, I promote their stuff enough. Why it mutes me, I do not know. This happens every time. So I'm talking, you can hear me. What I was saying is the big picture for today is, or tomorrow is going to be wind. I mean, that's as far as the severe weather is concerned. But for most of us, it's going to be hot. Again, we're still under a um, heat advisory until 7 o'clock. Um, and you can see there again, as I was saying, just how much of the United States is under that heat risk for tomorrow. So let's dive out of this and get right into the actual meat of the matter here, which is from the Storm Prediction Center. So I will put this right here. Um, yeah, everybody's telling me I have no sound. I think I got sound now. So here is the big picture. So from the Storm Prediction Center, we are under, well, parts of us. If we're talking all of Bedford County, Moore County, Lincoln County, well, let's just go ahead and say Marshall County, the southeast side of Maury County, pretty much all of Coffee County, and almost, 3/4 of Franklin County are under a level 1 marginal risk. Okay. The slight risk gets a little bit farther over. I'll zoom out so you can see the bigger picture. It really encompasses more of eastern Tennessee, and we're kind of on the edge of that, right? So, that being said, our main threat with any of the storms that are going to be in this area is going to be severe winds. Okay. So, if you look at the marginal here, it's a 5% wind risk, and then it jumps 3 times as much to a 15% on over here in the slight. And that is what constitutes the difference in this situation between being a marginal and a slight risk setup. So again, we're looking at this, and by the way, this is old. This is as of about 12:30. Hang on, I can tell you exactly what time it is. 12:32. I was off by 2 minutes. Oh, dang. And so this again has gone through some iterations of new forecast models, and this will be updated while we're all asleep. That typically happens. And then in the morning, we'll have a new outlook to see exactly what the Storm Projection Center wants to do. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and start looking at the forecast model so we can start nailing down some timing. Okay. I just muted my mic to see if y'all are paying attention. That's what I was trying to do. I'm just kidding. Um, let's go to models. And let's see here. This is a 0Z. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up till about noon, because there's really nothing really going on in Tennessee on the HRRR till about noon. Nothing for our area, just some storms up there in Davidson County and Sumner counties, off into Wilson County. And then once we start creeping in hour by hour, so if you want to know what the time is, so just know anything weather front, it's right there. It's right up at the top. Okay, so this is 12 p.m. Just letting you guys know that. So wish it was bigger. Wish I could make that bigger, but I can't. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this just hour at a time, just to see what it's going to look like. So keep in mind, timing is subjective. Even coverage is subjective. You have to keep in mind, this is not gospel here. This is not what the radar is actually going to look like. It's just what we think. So about 2 o'clock is when we start seeing some storms, some small storms kind of pop up in portions of Franklin there into more counties. And then 3 o'clock, now we're starting to see as that heating of the day continues, firing off of the storms a little more ahead of this front. 4 o'clock, a little bit more in coverage. 5 o'clock, looks like it's getting a little bit more clustered here. I would go from saying this is more, isolated, scattered here, even more widespread in portions of Grundy over into Coffee County. It looks like for the most part, 6 o'clock, still there, right? 7 o'clock, now it's down here and still going on, but intensity's kind of dropped off a little bit here. 8 o'clock, man, Franklin County, you may get some rain tomorrow. 9 o'clock, it's all gone ahead of that. So really, let's go back again and look at about from 2 o'clock on. So here's 2 o'clock, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's gone as obviously the front goes through and also the sun goes down. So the heating's gone as well. And so now what I want to do is I want to back it up here, put it in reverse, Terry, and we're going to kind of look at what the atmosphere is doing. So the first thing I want to do is looking at, okay, there are some strong storms in what looks to be in the area. So one of the first things that I'm going to look for is just, do we have enough wind shear? Is there enough speed in the atmosphere aloft? Sometimes I'll usually do soundings here, but this one I'll do a little bit different. I'll pull the shear from 0 to 6 kilometers, which will give us an idea of more organized develop. The higher the number, the more organized it is, okay? And so this is that 2 o'clock, and I'm going to go back up here. Hang on just a second. I get my little inspect tool, and honestly, this isn't much. So anything that pops up here is probably not going to be anything super impressive. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can do this. Yes, I can. Okay, so I got to figure out how to do this, though. Oh, man, it won't. You know what it's going to let me do? I want the second one to also be a model. Perfect. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. Let's see here. Let me turn the inspect off for just a second. And I'm going to see if I can change I'm going to try something different here, guys. Never done this before. So we're going to do it because it's live, okay? Good. Perfect. All right. So what I want to do, is it good? Oh, good. It does them both at the same time. Oh, yes. Perfect. Okay, cool. Okay, so what I'm looking at over here on the right side, just kind of above me, and placement here, I'll try to do what I can to kind of move some things around because I know I'm in the way in the corner over here. But on the right side, you've actually got the reflectivity, what we think the radar, and then I'm going to be looking at the shear to see when these storms pop up in the environment. Are they going to be anything that's, looks like most of that energy is up here to the north. If I pull the inspect tool real quick, these storms, oh, cool. It even does it on the other side too. Nothing, these storms aren't really going to be that impressive, if I'm being honest. That's not anything that I would be superly concerned with. And then as the day goes on, you're starting to see some of this increase. When I start seeing shear increase to the mid 20s, that's going to be some organized development. Obviously, what you're looking at right here on the left side does not match on the right side at all. I'll pull this over so you can see a little better. And so you're like, hey, there's no storms there, but that doesn't mean there couldn't be a storm there. Remember, these models are just ideas of what we think can happen. So at any rate, as I kind of pull through, you're going to start to see more of these storms have a little bit more wind speed to um, keep them active. If I think of it this way, if our winds are not very strong, our storms look like this, and they rain in the updraft, and it kills the storm. But if we can tilt them just enough where we can separate the updraft and the downdraft, we can have a little bit more prolonged severe weather. Okay, those storms can be there, but even at that, I'm not like overly concerned, but we do have definitely some up here. So it's something that I would just say, just saying to everybody, something just going to have to keep an eye on. Okay. So it's definitely got some fuel in the environment there, especially from about 3 o'clock on. It's you can start to see that fuel kind of increase for us for some of that. So pretty interesting there to see. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back if I can do this the right way. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. You can't see what I'm doing. It's off screen over to the left. All right, so I don't want to look at the radar. What I want to do is I want to pull back in just precipitation, and we'll start to look at a couple of soundings moving forward here. So I said about 3 o'clock, so I'm just interested. I'll kind of pull a sounding here. And from that, I will kind of zoom in so you can see the bigger picture here of what's going on. And it's just saying marginally severe. Just looking at Cape, there's going to be a lot of instability, but there is a little notch right there. Not that that's something that would actually happen in real life. Would have to wait and see, but that would really, well, once it hits level of free convection, it may not matter all that much. But definitely got some Cape to play with. So there is some instability in the atmosphere. So there's going to be a tendency for air to want to rise if we can get it there. The Cape numbers are marginal at best. And then that number I keep looking at that time is just not superly impressive. And so as I do this and come back out to Weatherfront, if I can click it and move a little forward as they get a little bit more intense. So let's go to about 4 o'clock before a lot of stuff really fires up. I'm going to try to hit the middle of that around the Tullahoma area just to see what we got. Doesn't really say anything that there's going to be anything. I kind of look over here to the right to see what they think. Definitely no tornado environment because these photographs don't even look that way. You can see all the wind too. It's just blowing pretty much westerly, right? So from the west to the east. So that being said, it's like I said, not terribly impressive. They look good on radar, don't they? But the soundings are kind of meh. And so I'll pull over here, over in parts of Grundy County where we've got that slight risk and see what happens. Definitely see a little bit more severe threat. And you do see just a little bit more of a turn there. Not that that'd be indicative of anything in the atmosphere. Still, you've got that westerly flow again with the winds right here. Still got some Cape, not as strong, but you don't need 3,000 in Cape to have severe weather either. Definitely got some shear, just a little bit to deal with there. So again, severe, not saying a tornado threat. That would just be anything that would be under a wind threat. And I go back into 6 o'clock just to look again, just to see what's going on over here in this area where that slight risk was. And they're still saying severe, but there's going to be a hefty little inversion right there that they'd have to get through to be able to lift storms. So that'll be interesting to see if that actually happens. But Cape is still, the numbers are still there. It's still strong Cape. I've noticed that definitely the shear has increased a little bit in that area. So it'll be interesting to see again as we progress at the day. Will these storms fire off and become severe the later on in the day? And also, too, something to keep in mind of that's I think is interesting is that will all these storms that come through, will they eat up all that atmosphere, all that energy that needs to happen? One would think that if we do have some storms to develop earlier, would the atmosphere have enough time to re-energize anything? Regardless, we're going to definitely see some really strong storms on radar. Probably, maybe one or two will be hitting a severe thunderstorm warning. That's typically what I think about in a marginal day. Is that storms are going to be strong, and then maybe one or two of those will end up reaching severe limits. Not all of them do. Special weather statements won't be out of the question for tomorrow. Maybe a severe thunderstorm warning. Definitely, as you go over here, like for instance, if I pull parts of East Tennessee, which kind of didn't really show all that much unless you're coming in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can just pull what East Tennessee looks like for reference, and their numbers don't look totally different than what we're seeing. So it'll be interesting to see what the Storm Prediction Center does for tomorrow morning. Again, they have got all of this data to look at, right? So they've been looking and looking and looking all day. They have meteorologists that come in and out of shifts anyway, and so the next person comes in, they look at it, and then they'll make that kind of final determination uh, Monday. So again, definitely going to see some storms. Our best chance really in a while, just for storms in general, because we've got enough forcing ahead of this front. Everything's been so sporadic and isolated as of late, but when you have some kind of front that comes in, it's going to provide you more of the lift, and so it's going to be more widespread than it would be on just a normal pop-up day. But again, definitely, I'm just keep going back into that 3, 4, 5 zone. That's really where we'll have to start to see the majority of those. My guys over in Marshall County and Maury County, you notice I hadn't talked about you much because it's just not really the storms seem to be firing off over to the east of you guys. So we'll just have to wait and see if that's exact where placement is. There's a lot that has to be, continually looked at as we go through the evening hours and overnight, as I've said a couple of times. So again, that's pretty much it. We've got that again, severe weather risk. And I'll go back just to remind you exactly what those outlooks were. There they are. And so I probably could do this. Would that be, can I do that? I can do that. Well, oh, that's like a kid in a candy store over here. Like I could actually do, where the storms lay in conjunction to that, which will be kind of interesting as a matter of fact, to see exactly where those storms would form. You can see kind of where they're at is where that line really draws between. You're seeing a lot of that activity over here in that slight risk zone. You're not seeing a ton of stuff really over here. You're seeing a little bit of it early on, but that coverage really shifts back over here to the east. So that's something pretty cool that I didn't realize you could do until just now, until you start clicking buttons and having some fun with it. So, that's it. That's really what I wanted to talk to you much. Not much to really talk too much, into tonight, other than we do have those guys over here in the eastern side that have a risk. Our Tullahoma folks will just be on the fringe. Parts of Winchester, you're going to just be right there on the fringe. Definitely may see a strong storm or two in the area for sure. So again, we'll just have to wait and see what happens when the Storm Prediction Center goes back with their outlooks for the morning. So if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to put them off in the chat. I can see them. I actually took my old iPad and decided to turn it into a monitor. So I got 4 monitors here. I'm like inundated with data. And so I hope you guys couldn't hear my fan in the background, but it is hot. And I'll tell you what, if you want to do something that tries your patience, install a ceiling fan. Okay. That's what I did this afternoon, and it was fun to say the least. So if you guys don't have any questions, we can just leave it at that. Like I said, I didn't want to make it like super in depth here, but just stick to Elijah. He's watching us in the background too over at Southern Tennessee Weather. Tomorrow morning, we'll have another just kind of a quick outlook of what's going on. If anything happens during the day, to stick with Elijah. If you don't know, if you're watching, my gig, my most paying gig is doing stuff education wise. I'm a teacher, so I will be kind of in and out, looking at radar and stuff, but I'll be teaching about absolute value equations and literal equations and that sort of fun stuff. Those kids need that too, especially they're going to be meteorologists. They need to know a lot of math. So, anyways, I appreciate your time this evening. You could have done a lot of things, but Touched by an Angel did end in 2003. So I'm sorry that wasn't on tonight, as I grew up with. But I think you chose me, and I appreciate that. And choosing Southern Tennessee weather. We try to do a lot for you guys. We got a lot going on this week. Football starting up this week. I do believe Elijah's team Shelbyville and my team Tullahoma play on Friday night. But anyways, it's going to be great. Just looking ahead. If you haven't, real quick before I get off of here, too much math. If you haven't checked it out, we're going to be maybe in a settled pattern. I know Elijah's talked about it as far as highs are concerned, and so we're going to dip down a little bit. But according to what I was looking at from the look ahead, it looks like maybe we end up back in another ridge situation. At least this time next week, the Climate Prediction Center already puts us above normal temperatures again. Yay. So we'll just have to wait and see on that as well. So let's get off here and go home, grab a bite to eat. I'm gonna drink some water because it is hot. And get ready for one more scorcher, and we'll keep you up to date should anything get a little persnickety with the weather tomorrow afternoon. So, guys, I appreciate your time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Bye.